Time now for an in-depth look at the market news this afternoon, and for that I'm joined on the line by Dr. Jun-sok, professor of economics at the Catholic University of Korea. Professor Yang, good afternoon. Thanks for coming on today.
Happy to be here.
Well, last Friday, Professor, U.S. stocks were down in a big way after Fed Chairman Jerome Powell said at the Jackson Hole symposium that they're going to do what it takes to bring down inflation, meaning big rate hikes likely on the way. All three main indices down more than 3%, the Nasdaq almost 4%. What's the story in the global markets as we start a new week?
Okay, well, it was the second straight week for declines in the major U.S. indices. For the week, Dow went down by 4.2%. S&P for the week, minus 4.0%. Nasdaq for the week, down by 4.4%. Year to date, Dow is down 11.8%. S&P down by 15.4%. Nasdaq by minus 23.3%. And it looks like Monday isn't going to be that great a day either. The futures for these indices are down from 0.75 to 1.3%. For the S&P, all the August gains have been lost. Now, as you mentioned, this is due to the Fed Chairman Powell's speech in Jackson Hole on Friday, Korea time, and it led to declines not only in the United States but Europe as well. The Powell speech was almost unusually short. It was only about 7 minutes, and at least according to the analysts, it reconfirmed the Fed's hawkish stance on interest rates. That he did mention that there will be pain before state situation gets better, and it just reconfirmed what Chairman Powell and other members of the Fed said in the past 2 weeks. So in some sense, it's not entirely clear why the speech affected the market so negatively. The market is interpreting the word pain as recession, and some analysts are arguing that recession has not been priced into the market before. But in terms of content of the speech, in terms of the hawkish stance and the wording used, it really doesn't seem like it was much different from what Powell and other Fed members were saying before the Jackson Hole conference. So it's a probability that the markets were experiencing some type of irrational hope that the rise in interest rates will slow down, but that irrational hope has been punctured. Now, the U.S. economy is still strong. The U.S. personal consumption expenditure figures came out last week. Personal consumption expenditure inflation is still high at 6.3%, but down from 6.8% last month. Core PCE inflation is 4.6%. Again, it is down from last month. The monthly rate was down somewhat as well. So inflation may have peaked, but the bad news is that the gas prices are rising again, so the oil prices may start rising again as well. But between the news about the gas in Europe and the Chairman Powell's speech, it does seem like the analysts and market participants are readjusting the possibility of 75 basis point rise in interest rate in September. According to FedWatch, before the speech, the chances of 75 basis point rise in September was 54.5%. But after speech, it rose to 70.5%. Europe, Friday, the Chairman Powell's speech came during the trading day, so European stock market, DAX, FTSE, and CAC all fell on Friday. And in Asia, the Friday's trading took place before the speech, so the results were mixed. But today, Nikkei and Hang Seng are down. But Shanghai is slightly up, mostly about level.
Right. Well, Korean stocks were down a lot today, too. Not quite as much as the U.S., but off more than 2% on the KOSPI and 2.8% on the KOSDAQ. Those declines led by chipmakers Samsung Electronics and SK hynix. Retail investors seeing a chance to buy, though. Tell us about the domestic market.
Okay. Well, the bit of a sad news is that the consumer sentiment and business sentiment numbers were out at the end of last week, and it did seem like Korean consumers and businesses were well, perhaps not as pessimistic as they were last month. Consumer sentiment was up 2.8 points, but it was still pessimistic 88.8 overall. If it's below 100, it's seen as pessimistic, but still, the numbers were seen as rising rather than falling, so that was seen as good news. Similarly, with business sentiment, manufacturing businesses, the sentiment index was 80, which was the same as July, but future BSI, what they expect from future, was up by 4 points to 82. Non-manufacturing sentiment index, the current index, how they feel about the situation now, had risen 2 points to 82. For the future, had risen 2 points to 82 as well. So people were getting less pessimistic, but because of the because of the decline in the U.S. stock market, it seems to be affecting the stock markets in Korea as well. Another factor which figured in was Bank of Korea Governor Lee Chang-yong, who was actually in Jackson Hole last week. He said in an interview with Reuters that while Bank of Korea may be independent from the government, they are not independent from the Fed. So until if the U.S. keeps on raising the rates, Korea will be raising the rates as well. So the KOSPI today, it fell by 2.18% to 2426.89. Individuals bought, institutions and foreigners sold. KOSDAQ was down 2.8%. It ended today at 779.89. Individuals and foreigners bought and institutions sold. And as you mentioned in the last story, the big news was Korean won. It depreciated by 18 won today, depreciated by 1.35%, and ended today at 1350.50. Everybody had been expecting this, but we seem to have broken the 1350 barrier. For the year to date, KOSPI is down 18.8%. KOSDAQ is down for the year by 24.9%. And Korean won has been depreciated by 13.6% since the beginning of the year.
Well, Professor, this week we'll be getting a ton of data in the United States, including jobs data, consumer confidence in China, PMI for August, and in Korea, consumer inflation data and preliminary data on GNI. What's on your radar in the week ahead?
Okay, well, the BOK on Tuesday will have July market average interest rates. On Wednesday, trade price indices and terms of trade. And on Thursday, second quarter revised GDP figures. And then on Friday, savings, institutions, lending by industry. On Thursday, September 1st, the trade account figures come out. It'll probably be in a deficit. And then on Wednesday, July industrial trends. Those are figures on production, consumption, and investment. And the big number is going to be on Friday with the Korean Consumer Price Index inflation figures. U.S., as you mentioned, on Tuesday, we have the job opening and labor turnover figures coming out. On Tuesday, Conference Board consumer sentiment numbers. On Thursday, unemployment numbers. And on Wednesday, we have the OPEC meeting. It's doubtful that they'll decide to produce more oil, but we can always hope.
Right. Well, we'll keep an eye on that, Professor, and check in with you later in the week. Thank you, as always, for coming on the program. We appreciate it.
Thank you.